Violence in video games sometimes has a profound impact on people. Some go as far as killing their little sister to keep her from distracting them on Discord, while others try to replicate GTA-style massacres in real life. We've compiled the wildest crimes that are in one way or another linked to computer games, and at the end we'll showcase the most horrifying case when a disturbed gamer killed 69 teenagers. Watch until the end. Elliot Rodger. Before his bloody rampage, 22-year-old Elliot Rodger posted a video with threats on YouTube, and the very next day, he followed through on his promise. On May 23, 2014, he stabbed 3 people in his own apartment. Later in the evening, when the streets were densely populated, he opened fire in the student town of Isla Vista, where the University of California is located. Elliot simply shot pedestrians from the window of his black BMW. 3 more people died, and dozens were wounded. But Elliot had planned even larger-scale killings. Initially, he wanted to infiltrate the women's dormitory at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and shoot as many students as possible in their sleep. However, a real manhunt was launched for his car, and while evading capture, he crashed into a parked vehicle. As a result, 6 people lost their lives. Elliot himself was found inside with a gunshot wound to the head. The young man came from a fairly well-off family. His father was an assistant director for the Hunger Games. Interestingly, he had alerted the police about his son's strange behavior and online threats. Elliot Rodger had everything but a normal personal life. In his blog he noted, "For the last 8 years I've lived in solitude. You girls never showed any interest in me. I don't know why this happened, but I'll make you all pay for it. It's unjust. It's a crime. I am the perfect guy." Elliot was a passionate fan of the online game World of Warcraft, where he spent all his free time. However, with each new game patch, the game became more popular. The player base grew, and the gameplay became more casual. Most people had perfectly normal social lives. Elliot reacted by saying, "World of Warcraft is no longer a sanctuary where I can hide from the evil of this world because those evil creatures have now invaded it. But believe me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We'll introduce you to real cruelty in the following stories." Gavin Prince. 15-year-old Gavin was playing a computer game when a 77-year-old woman asked him to take a break and help her around the house. However, the boy adamantly refused to comply with her demands. After a brief argument, Prince retrieved a samurai sword and killed his great-grandmother. But he didn't stop there. He then attacked his 55-year-old grandmother. She managed to barricade herself in a room, sustaining a minor cut, and immediately called the police on her grandson. Meanwhile, the teenager ran out into the street and attempted to assault 2 neighbors, but they managed to escape. Gavin continued to roam the streets, shouting threats at the world until backup arrived. The youth resisted the arriving police officers and even fired a pellet gun at them before being subdued with a stun gun. This was Gavin's 3rd arrest in 3 months for aggression, and he had previously had a samurai sword confiscated, but he had acquired another one. The boy had a fondness for slashers. What's astonishing in this story is that he found accomplices and sympathizers for his actions. Evan Ramsey. For this guy, life simply didn't leave him with many choices. When he was just 7 years old, his father was arrested for armed resistance to law enforcement, resulting in a shootout at their home. After this, his mother turned to alcoholism and Evan was sent to foster care. His peers constantly bullied him, mocking his mother's and father's story and calling him stupid and dim-witted. In the winter of 1997, Evan became a killer. He showed up at his school with a shotgun, immediately killing a student and the principal. It was revealed during the investigation that Ramsey had been discussing his intentions 2 weeks before the incident. One of his classmates helped him acquire the weapon, while another friend encouraged him, telling him how he could gain fame after such an act and make his name go down in history. On the day of the murders, many students brought video cameras to school to record the bloody massacre, because Evan didn't hide his intentions. According to the investigation, Evan was emulating the computer game Doom, of which he was a fan. He created a real-life corridor shooter. Evan was sentenced to 200 years in prison, with the possibility of parole in 2066. Nathan Brooks. This 14-year-old gamer truly adored video games. His grades plummeted due to them, and he started having attendance issues at school. He preferred to stay home and play games by deceit rather than attend classes. His parents decided to punish him by banning him from playing games for 2 weeks. The separation was unbearable for the boy. At night, Nathan retrieved his father's revolver from the safe and went into his parents' bedroom. His mom and dad were peacefully sleeping. Without hesitation, the teenager shot them because he had nothing else to punish them for. However, he was clearly a worse shot than in his games. Both parents survived, and the juvenile offender was sentenced to 15 years in prison. And the next two boys created a real bloodbath, mimicking a game where they had to use makeshift weapons to eliminate hordes of zombies. Andrew Col Tur. An 18-year-old guy from Spain surprised the public when he decided to beat his father to death. He chose a highly unconventional weapon, a baseball bat studded with spikes that he assembled based on a weapon from the famous game Dead Rising 2. Col, along with his friend Francisco Zaragoza Rodriguez, who armed himself with a hammer, struck Andrey's father more than 40 times in total. The footage of this crime created a significant resonance in Spain. The motive for the murder was quite banal: money, as his father's estate worth $50 million was a constant source of irritation for the young man. As Andrew claimed, his father's pressure forced him to expedite the inheritance process, and his favorite game provided the necessary tools. Next, we will tell you about a guy who turned the police department upside down, causing chaos in the best traditions of GTA. Devin Moore. The story of 18-year-old Devin Moore from Alabama could have ended with a simple fine or a symbolic prison sentence, but it took a much more dramatic turn. Moore had never had any trouble with the police, but in the summer of 2003, he was arrested on suspicion of car theft. While the protocol was being prepared at the police station, the teenager suddenly snatched a gun from Officer Arnold Strickland and shot him in the head. When his colleague James Crump heard the commotion and rushed in, he too was met with a bullet straight to the forehead. Moore then dashed out of the office and down the stairs, where he encountered 911 operator Ace Miller. Devin shot him as well. He left the precinct, stole a patrol car, and went on a rampage, driving around the city and shooting at people. They caught him a few hours later, and at the trial, his defense attorney tried to convince the jury that his client had become a victim of a tough life and the plot of Grand Theft Auto Vice City, a game he was a fan of. The young man had decided to earn himself a real-life 5-star rating, but ended up with a death sentence. Adam Lanza. Adam Lanza shot and killed 20 of his classmates and 6 teachers before taking his own life with a gunshot to the head. Before this shooting, the 20-year-old killer had also murdered his own mother, who worked at the school where the tragic incident occurred. There were only positive reports about the young man, and no conflicts or problems were associated with him. It was known that the young man suffered from Asperger's syndrome, although this condition typically doesn't contribute to aggressive behavior. During a final search of Lanza's home, investigators found numerous computer games. Lanza spent long hours in his room playing the famous Call of Duty game, in which players perform special operations as part of a military squad. It is highly likely that in combination with his condition and the influence of the game, he decided to carry out a mission in real life. Now we will tell you the story of 2 little girls who were deeply influenced by a computer character. Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier. The incident took place in the woods near the city of Milwaukee in the state of Wisconsin. 12-year-old girls Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier lured their 11-year-old classmate Peyton Leutner into the woods behind Geyser's house in the middle of the night, where they stabbed her 19 times in the stomach, arms and legs, and then left her to bleed in a ditch. Thankfully, Leutner managed to crawl to the nearest road, where she was discovered and rescued. The teenagers claimed that they were carrying out the will of Slender Man and were trying to become his followers. According to the girls, they hoped that if they made this bloody sacrifice, Slender Man, a fictional monster and serial killer that originated as an internet meme and later became the subject of the Slender game series, would appear and invite them to live with him in his legendary mansion. During questioning, Geyser confessed that she saw and communicated with a tall, faceless man, Slender Man. He promised the schoolgirl that he would kill her entire family if she didn't do this. Her friend admitted that she didn't communicate with Slender Man, but saw him in a dream, where he also threatened her. Both girls were charged with first-degree intentional homicide. They would have been tried as adults with a maximum sentence of up to 40 years in prison. However, the court ordered a psychiatric evaluation to determine the girl's mental state. The experts concluded that Geyser suffered from schizophrenia, oppositional defiant disorder, and believed in the existence of imaginary characters. As of today, Lutner has recovered from her injuries and returned to school. The second attacker, Anissa Weier, was also found not guilty due to her diagnosed mental disorders. In the end, the girls received 3 years of involuntary treatment. And that's it. Next, we will tell you how in-game donations can lead to serious consequences. Hu Anke. Young Chinese man Hu Anke received 50,000 yuan, which was just over $7,000, from his parents to start his seafood business. However, the 21-year-old spent the entire sum on online games. When his father came asking questions, and it was time to talk about his progress in business, the young man found no way out of the situation other than to poison his parents. He purchased 45 packs of rat poison and prepared a formal dinner for his parents, just like a dutiful son would. While his father and mother writhed in the throes of death, Hu immersed himself in the game Legend, ignoring their pleas to call a doctor. The parents passed away. Hu Anke was sentenced to death, but at that very time, gaming addiction was recognized as a mental disorder in China. Consequently, the verdict was appealed due to a clear diagnosis. Daniel Petrik. It's hard to consider this teenager a normal person. He shot his parents because they took away a computer game from him, a game known for its extreme violence. At that time, he was only 16 years old. His father had given him money to buy the long-awaited Halo 3 game, but warned his son that he would take the disc away if the game contained too much violence. The teenager ignored the threats, acquired the eagerly anticipated game, and spent more than 18 hours a day playing it. His parents confiscated the game and locked it in a safe. However, Daniel didn't give up. He managed to get the key, opened the safe, took his toy, and along with it, his father's gun. Then he calmly descended to the living room where his parents were watching TV. The teenager asked them to close their eyes, promising them a surprise. He then calmly shot his mother, followed by his father. To cover up his crime, the young miscreant placed the gun in his father's hand, simulating a murder-suicide. When his sister and her husband came over to watch TV, he told them that their parents were having a fight, so there was no need to enter. The sister heard moaning and her husband stormed into the house, discovering a horrifying scene. The mother was already dead, but the father was still alive miraculously. Daniel fled, but the sister called the police, leading to his swift arrest. During the arrest, he shouted that his father had killed his mother. Daniel was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole in 23 years. But sometimes murders happen simply because of words. The next schoolboy managed to trace his opponent's IP address. Andrey Ivanov. The boy's name has been changed due to the investigation not disclosing the data of juvenile offenders. The incident occurred in 2016 in the harsh and cold city of Krasnoyarsk. A 13-year-old schoolboy had an online dispute with his classmate through social media, after they had played Mortal Kombat together the day before. Words led to more words, classic gaming insults, and the next day the conflict escalated into the real world. The boy went to confront his tormentor, but the classmate pulled out a knife and, with a precise stab to the heart, killed the schoolboy. The killer, as it turned out, called himself a street fighter for justice and indulged in fighting games. His social media pages were filled with reposts of violence and clips from Mortal Kombat, where he commented approvingly on the killings. As many psychologists later stated, if it weren't for video games, the murder wouldn't have happened. Interestingly, the underage murderer managed to avoid criminal responsibility due to his age. Anders Breivik. This criminal's story is known to many, as it involved the largest mass murder in the history of video games. In 2011, he killed 69 boys and girls at a summer camp organized by the Norwegian Labour Party. Additionally, 8 more people died from the explosion of a bomb he planted near a government building in Oslo. Anders was sentenced to 21 years in prison. However, this sentence can be extended numerous times if the convict poses a danger to society. The Norwegian authorities have successfully used this right to this day. Breivik was a fan of the computer games Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, and World of Warcraft. The killer stated that he used the second game for entertainment, while the first served as a kind of simulator for him. He had a holographic device that allowed him to make his computer game three-dimensional, making all the characters as realistic as possible. Breivik wrote to his potential followers that they should not only play but also practice with real weapons. However, according to him, games allow safely simulating various situations and approaching the matter better prepared. To give you an idea of his level of detachment, He staged a hunger strike in prison to get them to upgrade his PlayStation to the current generation in his cell and allow him to choose his games. As you can understand from all these examples, video games are not the sole factor driving individuals to commit crimes. Family relationships and social issues play a much more significant role, but it's often more convenient to blame a single factor. Thanks for watching.